Have you ever had these moments where you sit down, you want to work, you want to be focused, but for some reason, 2 minutes pass, 5 minutes pass, and you just can't be focused? You're tempted to go to your phone, to go to YouTube, to play video games, essentially to do anything that is not your work. Maybe as you're watching this video, you are doing that. Or maybe you felt it even today. For most people I know, if it wasn't today, it was yesterday. And if it wasn't yesterday, it was the last time you tried to work or to study or to do something important. And trust me, I've went through that many times in the past, times when I wanted to do it, but I couldn't. And nowadays I still go through the feeling of, I don't want to do it, but I do it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is how do you feel these things? How do you, feel the temptations, feel the need to be distracted, but stay focused? How do you actually go about your tasks, the important ones, the big ones, the ones that you end up usually not doing, and actually sit down, do them focused for 1 hour, 2 hours, and actually progress? Well, we're going to talk about, and as you see here, this drawing, I'm going to explain what it is. And I'm going to illustrate this today with an example. The example of taking an exit on the highway as you're driving the car, of course. What happens usually when you're trying to focus is that you're like a car that's, let's zoom out a bit. You're going on a highway, speeding, and all of a sudden, when it's here, it notices it has to make the exit. And what happens is either the car is going to miss the exit or it's going to try to make it, it's going to have an accident or a super, super close call, but usually something's going to go wrong. When you're trying to focus, but before you're on Instagram, on YouTube, on playing video games, and you very quickly try to shift, it's the same thing that this car is doing. You're going too fast in one direction and you try to abruptly change directions. It doesn't work. It's never going to work. So I suggest, and that's what we're going to look at here, a better approach. Now, this is going to be a 3-part approach, and we have to understand what each of the steps is. So I'm going to write here to the side. Step number 1 is going to be slow down. Let me actually increase this a little bit. Step 1, slow down, and I'll explain what this means in practical terms. But with your car, first step to not mess up is obviously you'll notice the exit, you slow down a little bit. Because if you go at 120 kilometers per hour on a highway, or how many that is in miles per hour, you will not be able to make the turn, especially if your car is not the best. So first of all, it's going to be slow. 1, slow down. I'm going to write that again. Number 2, turn the wheel. I know this seems very basic, but as we're going to see, a lot of times it's not that basic. And then number 3, complete the turn. Slow down, turn the wheel, complete the turn. Now let's look at what this actually means in practical terms. So first of all, slowing down, going on the car, slowing down simply means stepping away from all these things. Instagram, YouTube, video games, I don't even know, watching TV, everything that is essentially distracting you. Things that are putting you in a high-paced state of mind. Because if you think about it, when you're going to be working, sitting down, writing, Excel, all these things are very slow-paced. They require you to be with the same thing for a long period of time that is not that stimulating for the mind. And it is not as stimulating, especially when you compare it to social media, to video games, to all of these things. There's no flashy sounds, there's no, not flashy sounds, there's no flashy images, there's no crazy sounds going on, none of these things. So slowing down here simply means step away from all of these things. And then you're ready to make the transition. Transition here meaning turning the wheel and starting to make the turn. In practical terms, this means, so for your work, having a routine, having some rituals that you always do to get you into a better mind state. In a lot of ways, to shift the momentum from content consumption to doing the work you have to. First of all, you need to slow down to be able to do that, because otherwise, if you just try to meditate as you're on your phone, it's not going to work. Now, for me personally, what I do here, I always watch this video I'm going to put here. Maybe I can link it below as well. And as I watch that video, or not watch, as I listen, because it's just audio, I play a game of chess. It engages my mind, but it still allows me to transition, to slow down, and really to go through all these steps. Now, you don't have to do that, obviously. Some people, they drink coffee as they read a newspaper. Some people pray as they listen to some, for example, Orthodox chants. Some people go out into nature and meditate for a little bit. all of them work depending on the person. What I'm giving you here, I don't want you to give you specific things for you to do because everyone is different. I'll give you the principles, you choose the methods. You're intelligent, I know you're capable of it. I don't want you to just be giving you here some cookie cutter recipe. Now, with that said, you may think, that's it? Just that? I'm used to seeing videos where people are giving me all these steps. Yes, that's it. You only need 10 to 15 minutes maximum to really shift this momentum. And I know you see a lot of videos nowadays of people telling you that 15-step routine that takes an hour and a half to get you into your prime state of mind. Maybe that works for some people, but I'd argue that a lot of times those people are just trying to confuse you to then sell you something. Because remember, when we're doing these routines and when we're turning the wheel, when we're doing these things, the purpose is not just to turn the wheel. The purpose is not just to do the routine for itself. The purpose is to be focused. That's the point. These routines are a tool. Don't forget that, please. Now, after that, number 3, you've turned the wheel. Oh my God, I didn't even know that was possible. Number 3, you gotta complete the turn. And at this point, you may think, complete the turn, but I just gotta keep the wheel and then go with the flow. That is true if we're driving a car. The problem here is that I'm gonna have to draw here with my finger, which is not ideal, but I don't know where my iPad pen is. The problem is that as you're making the turn, a lot of times what happens is that we end up, I don't know the right word. Forgive me, English is not my first language. We end up seeing a lot of forks on the road. And you think you're in the clear, you think you've made the turn, but what ends up happening is that, yeah, you made the turn, but now you got to make another decision. In practical terms, what this means is that, you've transitioned to work, but now you sit down and you don't know where to start. You can do this project, you can start by answering the emails, you can start by doing that. And a lot of times this is very overwhelming. And what that leads to, this overwhelm, this confusion, is to a state of limbo, where you're not really working because you're deciding what to do. And even if you start, you end up bouncing between tasks, but you're also not resting if you choose to step away from it. So time is passing, but you're not really resting, you're not really working, you're just wasting time. This is the worst of both worlds, obviously, because you're just not doing anything. And if you're not doing anything, then, what's the point? Life's just passing by and you're not progressing in anything. And so what we have to do, let me just grab the car here, is to make sure that, oh my God, give me a second, I'll cut this part off. So what you have to make sure is that when you get here to this point, you know already exactly which path to take. And in practical terms, what this means is that you plan beforehand. Ideally, what I suggest is the day before you decide not everything that you're going to do throughout the 8 hours of your work. In the beginning, especially, that's too overwhelming. And if you start looking at this big to-do list, you're not going to do anything. So what you do instead, and what I suggest here, is that you choose the first 1 or 2 tasks, but especially the one you're going to start, and you break it down. You get clear on what are the steps to complete this task, what it means to complete this task, and where am I going to start. So if you're writing, let's say you're a writer, you have to write an article. You'd start by defining, okay, first step, define the article. Second step, define the structure of the article. Third step, write 1,000 words within all these things. And then maybe you'd come to some point where you have to research things. That would be after you write. You get clear on it and you understand how these steps are leading you to completing your task. And you do this not because you need to be, babied around, or because, you're such a child, you get overwhelmed by these things. It's not the point of this. Just as with the car, if you're going, and let's say, especially the first times you do it, and you're going through a new road you don't really know exactly too well, if it is a long road, which sometimes these things tend to be, or they feel long, 1 hour riding feels much longer than 1 hour scrolling, and you were to see no indication, no nothing, even if you did this plan before, you'd get here, and you'd still get confused. You'd start doubting, like, am I really on the right path? However, what we do with these things, and let me change the color here, is we essentially give ourselves little signs that say how far we've come already, and pointing us, or not pointing, but confirming that we are on the right direction. For example, if you're going from, let me say a country to another, Portugal to Spain. You take the road, now you see here, and it's written there 100 kilometers to Portugal or to Spain, wherever you start from. You're like, oh, okay, I'm in the right track. Then you walk a bit more or drive a bit more and you see 50 kilometers to where I'm going. You'd be like, oh, okay, I can relax now. I'm in the right track. I can actually focus on the driving. And this is what will happen as well, because once your brain can or understands that you are on the right track, that you're doing what you should be doing, it relaxes of all these thoughts of, should I be doing this? Is this the right task? What is the purpose of all this? And it allows you to focus. All this power that is being used for overthinking will be channeled to working. And this is what we, or what people usually call the flow state, or what's the other name for it? I don't know. Flow state is what is usually commonly described as, where you're just lost in that task. You're just doing. All of your effort is in the doing, and you progress much faster. The problem is that a lot of people can only experience this when playing video games a lot of times, because that's where everything is set up for you. Essentially, if they've done this for you, they give you the controls, they set up the scenario, they point the path for you to take, and then it's easy for you to take. It's engaging, it's entertaining. Here it's a bit harder, you have to set it up for yourself, but the more you do this, and let me go back to the beginning. 1 second, let me pick up the car here. The more you do this, slowing down, turning the wheel, taking the turn, choosing the right path, going through it, the more you do this, the better you're gonna get at it. You're gonna be able to get here. Whoopsie. You're gonna be able to get here with your car, and you're gonna be able to anticipate the turn. And when you anticipate the turn, you know how it feels to take that turn, you can afford to take a bit more risk, to go a bit faster, to push your car a bit more to the limit and reap more rewards for it. With that said, we also have to keep in mind the dangers of getting comfortable with things. Because the more you do this, the more, confident you get with it, you can also start to think that you're above it all. That you don't need to do the routine anymore, that you can afford to go super fast and just kind of drift a bit and you'll be able to make the turn. Sometimes you will, but the problem is that the more you do that, the more likely you are to fail. Because the same voice of laziness that now exists within you, that you can combat with this, it can also come back if you let it. Because it's always trying to take back control, to put you comfortable, to make you just do the things you enjoy doing in the moment. And if you allow it, it will take the wheel and it will crash you. It will put you again on the side of the road, waiting for the mechanic in the limbo. And that is not what you want, but you will get there if you allow yourself to be there or to get there. Final thing is, once you're learning to go through all these things, you're going to get better and you're going to be able to optimize your path through these things more quickly, get into focus. It's going to be great. However, you must remember that you're driving a car. And if you start pushing your car too much, mismanaging the transmission, bumping against the sides of the road, braking like there's no tomorrow, you're going to become a regular customer of the mechanic. Now, in case you didn't understand, you are the car in this scenario. What this means is that if you start neglecting your sleep, neglecting how you eat, not going to the gym, overspending, giving into all your temptations that we talk a lot about here, how to get away from removing these bad habits, you're going to end up as an old Honda Civic that is beat up, that is all destroyed, and sure, it may be able to kind of get you through this path, but it's not going to be pleasant, it's going to be horrible, it's going to be slow, and overall, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. And that's not what we want. So do not forget that this is good for work, and this will help you with getting into a focused state for work or for studies, but remember, life is much more than that. And a lot of times, things that have nothing seemingly to do with this will help you with this. So don't forget, rest as well as you should. Go to the gym. Don't forget your relationships. Read. Enjoy life. Remove your bad habits. Don't forget all these other things. Because I know, and this may fall on deaf ears if you're now on a stage of your life where you're kind of grinding as far as work goes. But I hope one day, if not today, you come to the realization that life is much more than just work. Not in the sense of just enjoying a good life, but that they will also help you progress as far as your work goes. It is a combination of everything. You're not trying to become the best at work, you're trying to become the best person that you can become. Don't forget that, and also remember that in the end, what matters most is not really where this will get you, the destination you're trying to get. Because destinations are a small part of the journey. You get there and you realize there's another destination, and there's another destination. There's infinite destinations. And I hope whatever ones you set yourself to, as long as they benefit you, that you get to them. But don't forget that most of our time is not in the destination, it is driving. So please enjoy and realize that your purpose is really found in the drive. The turns and the misturns, the accidents and the close calls, the good views and the boring times that you're just driving straight and nothing happens. That is where purpose is to be found. That is where most of our time is spent. So please don't forget that.